Hello and welcome to the History of CAD podcast. My name is Rupinder Tara and I will be your host. On this podcast, we will explore the untold stories behind the tools that shape modern engineering and design. Each episode features conversations with the pioneers of computer-aided design, the innovators who built the software, and those who worked alongside them or observed or reviewed their work.
Hey, Anthony.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. Sorry, I'm running a little late.
Not a problem at all.
You know why I'm late?
At all.
You know why I'm late? I was reading your article. I love the way it starts. A tumultuous relationship with Apple and architects. Great admiration of your dual life, as it were, because you have done publishing now for 27 years. This art,
27 years. Yeah, 27 years. I know I'm kind of surprised by it myself at times.
yeah. And you managed to do that while you were also a practicing architect for almost all of it,
Yeah,
right?
I am still a practicing architect. Yep. Yep. I managed to pull this off for, it was easier when I was younger. I had more energy for sure. But then I had
Yeah,
kids and the kids are not in the home anymore. So I have more time now.
yeah, more
So
time. Yeah.
more time, less energy.
So I was a practicing engineer and then I gave it up for publishing. Bad choice, looking back on it. But you managed to keep them both alive, both your profession and publishing. So,
I
yeah,
I have to say that I've been lucky because
yeah,
it isn't easy to do both by any stretch of the imagination. And there have been points when I wanted to pick one and just stick with one.
uh,
But the problem is I love the practice of architecture so much, and then it's hard to sort of to get rid of something that you've created from the beginning, this baby of mine, Architosh. So I've just been very fortunate and blessed.
I couldn't do either of them well if I was doing them both, I'm sure, but you managed to pull it off. How do you split your time? Is it like 50-50 rule?
No, it's not like in the very beginning, I was doing practice sort of 75% of my time. So maybe 32 hours a week.
Okay.
And then I was doing all the rest of it on Architosh. But I clock in 55 hour weeks. So it's a bigger week than the average person's week, but it's just what I was used to. And yeah, I'm just used to it. But generally, just in the way it works workflow wise, I've never really shared this in detail, but so I tend to get up early in the morning. I'm an early riser and
How early?
5:30. And then that's not as early as like people like Tim Cook, who's getting up at 4 in the morning to start his day. But I know that some of the most famous people in the world, everyone from Thomas Jefferson to Tim Cook, have gotten up incredibly early. I don't know how they do that. But I can get up at 5 or 5:30 on a regular basis, and I'll start my day, and I'll come down to my office studio, and I will end up just reading emails, catching up with the communications with software vendors and the press releases and stuff like that. And then I'll start writing. I'll get a news story out maybe once every day or two. But there's a lot, as you know, as an editor, there's a lot of back and forth with all of these software companies. So you're not always writing; you're doing a lot of other things too.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Yeah, and then I go to work and focus on just architecture and practice. And then I'll finish in the evening. I do monitor my emails, especially in the middle of the day during lunch break, and kind of manage to kind of keep the connections going for the Architosh related stuff in the middle of the day.
Here's my pro
Stuff in the middle of the day.
Here's my problem with trying to be an engineer while I'm most of the time being a publisher and an editor. It's if I'm really rusty with my tools, I will not use CAD anymore. Certainly not for work, but what I have to do is like find projects that I could force myself to use CAD on. And I say force because I'm so rusty with it. It's really hard for me to
Yeah,
pick up any CAD software now.
right.
And I attribute that to being they're not easy to use, but maybe that's just my excuse. I'm really bad at using them because I haven't done them for a living. Use them for making a living for so long. But you manage to you do that, right? What do you use, by the way? Do you use Graphisoft or Vectorworks? What is your tool of choice?
I have used a variety of tools over the years, from Archicad to Vectorworks to AutoCAD,
Uh,
at different times of practice. The one that I know the most, that I'm most skilled in, from the most use, is probably Vectorworks.
uh,
I also am very skilled in SketchUp, and
gotcha. Yes.
I know Rhino a tiny bit, but not. I don't really work in Rhino. I would love to work in Rhino, but I don't have a reason to work in Rhino with
Yeah.
my practice. So. But I agree with you. The CAD tools are hard. They've always been hard. They're hard for people to learn, and they're hard to shift between. But I have a theory that AI is going to make that much easier for us, because I think the assistive AI technology that you can see in some of the tools now, like Ares Graybert, which is an AutoCAD competitor, has basically open AI's technology right in their own palette. And you can just literally start from day one. If you didn't even know CAD at all, you can just ask it, how do I get started? How do I draw up my first line? And it will guide you. And I think that's just the beginning of a great sea change in making the learning curve to these tools not nearly as steep,
Uh,
or as arduous, and making it certainly faster. And there's repercussions for that, because then people might be able to switch tools. Firms may be able to move between tools with less pain points.
I've been impatiently waiting for that time where I could just talk in a natural language to my computer and have it do my bidding. And it's happening. Like great. I keep waiting for the big guys to do that. And I tell you, it's been agonizingly slow. And not just because I'm getting more impatient in my old age. It's like I want these things to happen in my lifetime. I want it to say, hey, make me this bracket or make me this bicycle frame or something like that, right? Or all the
Right.
way to like, let's electrify this car, right?
Hmm.
I want AI to be helping me with that, and I don't want to learn all those, CAD commands. That's like 300. It's like a fast food menu, right? You have to learn
Right.
that language. It's two to 300 words. You have to
Hmm.
learn that language. Hell with that. I want to say, you learn my language, right? Why don't you learn my
Right.
language? Why don't you do what I want you to do? And by the way, you as an AI, you might have been observing what I'm doing, so you should know when I say, make me a bracket, this is what I'd like to use, or,
Right.
like in your case, make me this addition to a house, or make me this new building. You should know that, hey, Anthony lives in Boston area, right? And he
Hmm.
does this is the kind of standards that exist in housing if you're doing it should know those things, right? It should know your location, it should
Yeah,
know your
abs
habit, right? So that's what I wait for. And damn it, these companies are slow in doing that. I don't know what it is. I'd love to get your opinion. My feeling is that they're just dragging their heels until AI goes away and people stop making demands of them.
I don't think it's going to go away, though. Not at all. It's
Uh,
definitely not going away.
I don't know if you know this person, Fino. He goes by the name Fino. It's Michael Finocchiaro. He put together a list of AI startups in our, let's say, in our extended world, which
Hmm.
CAD, PLM, simulation, everything, right? And adjacent technologies. There's 200 to 300 startups. I think he's got over 300 now that are
Hmm.
AI startups, AI related startups related to our extended world. Just amazing, right? Just amazing the number and the money that's going into these companies. So you're right. I don't think anybody can ignore them. So I just keep thinking, why are CAD companies so slow to make those interfaces? Those natural language interfaces, because I don't want it to just tell me how to do it, right? I want it to actually work with me to do it, right?
Hmm.
Have you been keeping up with like what's happening with AI developing, like the MCP, the model control
Model context protocol. Yes, I have.
model?
What you can do with Aries actually now is you can text prompt your way to it doing making a line for you, making a rectangle, making a series of lines and closing them. So I actually did some of that in my recent review article, which I have just published.
Mhm.
Not to promote that piece necessarily, but it
Yeah,
so
go
this is
ahead.
the first tool that I've actually tested that out in, or had the opportunity, I should say, to actually test that out. And I have to say, what's exciting about it
Yeah.
is the ability to sort of then imagine, if another AI can help you with the prompts better so that you can actually say, this is what I want to do. And then it
Uh,
will create the prompts that Aries needs to use to generate the drawing very accurately.
mhm.
But I've been stunned at how accurate it is at following prompts where the English isn't perfect, when there's maybe a typo or grammatical error. You've probably seen this in just AI tools in general, working with Gemini or whatever. You can misspell a word and it will still understand what you're trying to say.
It's quite forgiving of my typos for sure. For sure. I
Yes.
do love that about it. Which and that's the very opposite of coding or command line interfaces in CAD programs, right? They're very unforgiving, right? And yeah, I find that to be quite a detriment. So I'm just waiting for it to work with me. It sounded like it was fairly simple commands. You
It
weren't
was
saying
initially I asked it just to draw a line, and then I asked it to draw another line connected to that line. And so then I decided to just ask in one single prompt
hmm,
to draw a whole series of lines that were interconnected, sort of like the outline of a building, right? If you
uh,
wanted to do the floor plan of a building, you would probably start with its overall shape first. Or it could have been that could have been the outline of some other thing that you're going to create. It could have been a mechanical part or a site survey or something like that. So it was very interesting. Um, Certainly didn't, but I handled it all in one prompt. That was what was impressive. Then I began to realize, well, how big of a prompt could I actually throw into this thing, and would it follow it all out correctly? And the thing I'll say about what impressed me was when I started, obviously the program did one line for me, and then it did a second line. So I was able to cite those lines in the prompt by saying first line, second line, last line, connect the end of the last line to the midpoint of the first line, and it understood that.
oh.
Um, and so that was impressive to me. And I mean, I didn't get super far in testing it out, but it begs the question of just where this may go and how accurate it could be and what time savings you could have. Because you could imagine then one AI just ingest a description of what you're trying to do. I want an apartment building that's one story duplex or something, and do you describe what you want with some general parameters, and then that AI generates sort of the necessary prompts to give it to a CAD tool to just do it.
Yeah.
Um, that's a big time savings. It's not going to save you any time if you're just drawing one line at a time. That's not, it's faster just to draw one line at a time. But
Yeah.
when you see that it can put together a very large prompt and do a bunch of things rather quickly, that's when your eyes open and go, wow, what this is interesting.
I always find though, if I look at it too closely, this happens to other people too. I saw one of these guys, very popular SketchUp expert, and he decided to use the AI just to check it out, see how well they've implemented AI. And he was also, I think, stunned. It looked like he was stunned by how well it made was it a house? I'll find it and dig it up and show it in the background. A whole house, or no, just a room, just a room. Like I said, it's a 20 by 20 room with this
Mhm.
window, this door, and it was bam, there it was, right?
Yeah.
It was in SketchUp, and he was like, "Wow, that is pretty cool that it can do that." But if you look at it closely, the corners of the room didn't weren't quite matching. He had to fill them in, right?
Mhm.
The window wasn't the standard window. It was the right dimensions, but it wasn't where you would have put it, right? Those kind of things.
I explored early too with AI
Yeah,
with writing, and I decided it doesn't. I don't. Will never use it for writing articles. It's
yeah,
just it's a good tool for checking your writing, or
yeah.
offering suggestions or
I use it
tightening.
for editing, copy editing,
Yeah,
and
editing and ideation perhaps too.
mhm.
Some of my better articles have that I think read really well have benefited from just interactions that I've had with AI about um, just sort of I call it Architosh style, editorial style, which is
Right.
just I've had a very simple, well, not maybe it's simple to everyone, but simple method for me of writing feature stories where I kind of almost create a diagram of the article first, and you could talk to AI about these kinds of things,
Mhm.
and it and it helps you to kind of provide the hooks that keep an article flowing. Like the article that we were going to talk about Apple at 50. So
Yeah.
because I think that
AI,
article flows
AI,
very well.
then AI hijacked our conversation just like it hijacks all the
Oh
content
yes, it's gonna
creators, right?
hijack our whole lives.
Promise I'll get back to the article because I do want to talk about it. There's a
Yeah.
lot to that, and lot to the whole concept of Apple ignoring us, right? Um,
Right.
but yeah, but just to finish that off, the AI things, if we ever could, it just yeah, the promise is there. I feel like there's a lot more that can be done. You know, the conversation usually I have with people on this is job related. You as an accomplished architect, you know what you want to make, and it can help you with ideation, but it's not quite you, right? But
Mhm.
I wonder if younger architects are more fearful of their whole profession, right? That they may not be called on then to do like what maybe the grunt work, right? Like making drawings or
Right.
architectural firms and things like that. Are our jobs in trouble? That's what I always find people talking about with AI, even to the experts.
Yeah, I find that too. Young people in general, even my kids that are not in architecture, but the ones in film, for example, and that's been affected by AI, the film industry.
Oh,
Yeah, I think we've always relied on the kids in the industry to kind of do the grunt work, whether it's on Wall Street or it's in an architecture office. The youngins are always kind of doing the heavy lifting and the grunt
yeah.
work. And a lot of this information technology centric worlds can be automated, I see with AI in the future. So I don't know. I understand why they would be concerned. That makes a lot of sense why they'd be concerned.
I think, oh no, I'm a experienced engineer. They can't possibly replace me, right? But then, when I talk to other engineers or writers, it's like I find a lot of them have trouble finding jobs, and a
Hmm.
lot of them are some of the writers. Quite a few writers have been their positions have been eliminated. You heard about Oracle getting rid of 30,000 jobs all at once.
Yeah,
Uh,
it did.
yeah, one of the people that spoke about it publicly was a
Hmm.
content writer instructor, and yeah, their job vanished after 29 or 30 years in doing it,
Right.
right? It just
Yeah.
yeah. So it's definitely eating jobs. All right, wait, gotta get back to Apple. So I gotta say, okay, I still use a laptop. I use a ThinkPad for my work, right?
Hmm.
That's a ThinkPad workstation, but everything else is Apple, right? I got my phone, I got my iPad, I got two iPads. I'm competing with Martin Day for the number of devices I carry with me. He brags about seven. I think I may have him beat. I'm not sure. But I don't know, fanboy may not be the right term, but I'm definitely a fan. But I really don't think companies have been slow walking any kind of porting to the Mac. And I don't understand it. I don't understand it. They now have a better chip, better processing than Windows machines, right?
Right.
Yeah. So why do you think that is? They've resisted for so long.
Well, I think when there are new entrants in the AEC market, when I should say when there were new entrants in the AEC market, let's take SketchUp for example. When they came 20 plus years ago, I think now, they said we'd like to move to the Mac, but we're a startup, so we're going to focus on where most of the users are, that's Windows. And so they focus on Windows first. But in today's world, development is mobile and clouds first oriented, so very few software companies are thinking about, the desktop solution is like an afterthought. So that's the big one of the bigger changes. But I think historically, um, the reason why the Mac has suffered a little bit in AEC, maybe not just a little bit, but a lot, is because the center of gravity in the industry around tools, and there always is in the AEC a real powerful center of gravity, almost like a sun that sucks everyone to it, was on Autodesk. First it was AutoCAD, and then it became
Revit.
Revit.
Yeah.
And those two solutions, when they started on Windows. And so I think it's not so much about creating that there's critical mass out there for Mac users. And it's
Mhm.
not the attraction of like, do we want to do something for the Mac? Sometimes it's economic and you just want to start with the biggest user base.
I remember when AutoCAD decided it was going to be single platform and it gave up its Mac codes, all, everything, all
Yes.
just turned its back on Mac, and that was way before the chips got really capable. I thought maybe it's because of that, because the hardware wasn't ready for that kind of work. But nowadays, there's no excuse. I mean, really, they could go back to Mac and oh, maybe they're right. Maybe they're just embracing the cloud architecture now and not concentrating at all on desktop tools. I do definitely get that impression. There's a lot of pissed off Revit
Hmm.
users because everything they're doing is cloud based. You probably have visited Graphisoft Park in
Yes, many
Budapest, right?
times. Hmm.
Yeah. So there's an interesting story there. That's you saw the statue of
Yeah. Yep. Steve Jobs
Steve
statue.
Jobs.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So wow, what a story. He was an integral part of their. Well, you probably can tell the story better than me.
Yeah. He was
What
at the
happened there?
He was at the he met the Graphisoft folks early on at in Hanover, Germany, I believe,
Uh,
at the big computer show, and was so impressed by what they were doing, which was the very first earliest version of Archicad. It may have been called something different than Archicad at that time, but it was eventually become Archicad. And he, I guess, just embraced them and offered to help them and so forth. I think even he helped supply getting in Macintosh computers over the curtain, over the Iron Wall, the Soviet wall, because at
yeah,
that time Hungary was a part of the Soviet Union. So yeah, and they ended up, I think he was so central to the formation of their company's existence that he's sort of a father figure on some level. And so they really respected him by putting that statue on their campus. Plus, they think a lot like Apple. They're vanguard. They're like the pirates that Apple used to fly a pirate flag. They are true innovators and plot their own course. And so that rebel spirit that's very much part of the old Apple, not so much today. It's like before Apple had um, the iPod and then eventually the iPhone, there was the Apple ecosystem was very different. It felt like rebels. I felt like the Rebel Alliance in Star Wars, small little
uh,
ragtag band trying to defeat the Empire. But yes, I think that's the gist of the story,
yeah,
and that's why they have that statue there.
yeah, yeah. It came rather late. It looks like it's Jobs in his later years,
Yes,
and so I think it was a tribute maybe after he died.
yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So yeah, it's a good story there. Where was I going with this? Oh, so okay. So our Graphisoft and Archicad were used on the Apple. So I kept waiting for engineering tools, MCAD tools to come onto the Apple. And I thought there was a really good chance of that happening back in, oh, when was it? It was 6 years ago or so. I saw Shaper 3D.
Hmm.
Are you familiar with them?
Yes, yes.
Probably, well, it's MCAD, right? But still, because it's Apple, you probably have covered
Yeah,
Istvan.
no, yeah, I'm familiar with them.
Okay. Yeah. So I saw them. I was like, wow, this is so cool. I first saw it demonstrated. Istvan came up to first time he came to the US and he says he's going to show us CAD demo. And I'm thinking he's just standing in front of us with an iPad. How's he going to do that? And he proceeded to sketch out a part using a Parasolid engine, right?
Hmm. Right.
On an iPad with a iPad.
Apple
Can you see
Pencil,
this
right.
in a
Yep.
pencil? And I was just blown away because all the time, engineers and architects, what do they start with? Paper and pencil, right? And it
Mhm.
just was a natural sketching for me, very natural to draw that. And here he was doing it with that electronic equivalent of paper and pencil. I thought this is going to change the world.
Yeah.
I saw that. It didn't, right? I've been wrong many times, right? But again, I'm wrong. Like, okay, nobody picked up on it. It's like I was the only guy I felt like who had an Apple Pencil and pad, and I was trying to use it. And I thought, but damn, why didn't that happen? Again, a bit of a betrayal by the CAD companies, right? Not to seize upon that as a
Yeah.
natural base, right?
Yeah. Well, we have an industry that's filled with a lot of older companies that are very entrenched, and older companies are not fast movers,
Yeah,
generally speaking.
right.
Not like the new startups. So, like
Yeah.
his that company. I think there's a difference between the way people use a pencil on paper versus an iPad too. I think
Do you use an
what he
iPad, by the way, when you sketch?
Oh yeah, no, I use a remarkable tablet because I just want to sketch. I don't want it to be CAD. I don't want it to be a CAD object, or I don't want to model with a pencil. And I know people do think about that, but
Yeah.
that's not, I think the sketching as an architect, the sketching process is one that is quite fluid and fast with just trace paper. And if you don't want trace paper, then you could use something like a remarkable tablet or an iPad and just sketch on different layers. So Morpholio Trace is a good example. That's the kind of digital equivalent of trace paper. And Vectorworks has bought that company, by the way.
Huh.
And that's how I work. And I think a lot of architects work that way because of speed. And I think they're working like that because you're working out ideas. It's not so much that you need to get them into 3D or have a high level of precision at that point. That's sort of the next step in the process.
Uh, it's just conceptual. It's just shapes. It's not
Shapes
doesn't have to be
and a lot of
accurate. It doesn't have to be
ideas, a lot of
scaled.
ideas that end up in your head that you have to carry forward to the next level of
Uh,
the process.
yeah. Engineers aren't quite as creative, I think, as architects, but definitely that's how ideas get first put down is on paper. And yeah, it just seems like I don't know. I use it. I use, by the way, I use the iPad and pen when I'm
Hmm.
at a conference, and I look around and no one else is. It's like I shouldn't be. I'm writing in it longhand on my iPad, and it just works for me. I had to learn a few things like how to actually write differently. But after I got through that, I do that all the time now, to the
Yeah.
exclusion of regular paper. But still, it hasn't really caught on. It's quite handy, by the way. Have you noticed that I don't know how much you use notes ever, but you can
Hmm.
add and subtract. You
Yeah.
can do you can do actually pretty complicated math problems on it. Uh,
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that's great.
I, speaking of how slow engineering software is, I had a conversation with the MathCAD people. Are you familiar with MathCAD?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So MathCAD, I always belabor the point that, oh, it's really hard to use. I don't want to memorize all those key commands because they always tell me if it's hard to use, oh, you should learn the key commands. They're very fast. And I think, oh, I don't want to do that. Again,
Yeah.
learn my language. Why should I have to learn yours? Kind of arrogance. So and they all so I went up to them one time after I discovered how Apple could do math, right?
Hmm.
I went up to them and very, again, I'm very arrogant too, right? I said, hey, look,
Right.
Apple can do this.
Yeah.
How come you can't do this, right? And and they were, oh, okay, they fought back. They clawed back their credibility or tried to. They said, well, we can't make those kind of mistakes. So what if it interprets a three for a four, right? And planes go down, words to that effect.
Yeah.
I guess so, but shouldn't you try? Right? Shouldn't you try to do that?
Yeah. The mechanical world is different, but
Yeah.
I think
I
it's
still
different
think
kind of.
nobody listens to us journalists, you know that? I think people get a feeling like one time, Trimble. I'm at a Trimble conference and the panelists are all journalists. They didn't ask me to be one of those panelists, which I resent. But they had journalists up there. But the point is, and they actually stated this, they said, "You guys have seen everything. Yeah, you have seen everything. You should be on panels because you guys have seen everything, and you have a worldview which even experts at companies lack, right? They are really good at knowing their own products, but they have a marginal interest or knowledge, or let's say superficial interest in knowledge of other products, right? We
Right.
don't. We see everything. We can
We
judge
see everything.
the other. I think journalists are oftentimes at fault for not judging, because they don't want to lose advertisers. But
Yeah.
that's a whole different subject. But we see it all, right? We have a front row seat on all this technology.
Yeah.
Really, I swear they should listen to us more. I'm getting more adamant about that my
I
whole
well,
time.
I think it's a great point that you're making
Yeah,
because it's true that we see everything,
yeah,
um, and for the most part with a lot of neutrality,
uh-huh,
because we're journalists, but also because if we're journalists, we're not really using we don't have any dog in the fight with a particular vendor because we're journalists. That isn't quite my story exactly because I actually practice too, but for the
uh,
most part, I am completely in agreement with you that they should listen to us more because even like you said, the biggest companies with the top guy in the company, they don't have the breadth of knowledge we have. They haven't seen it all. They're biased towards the things that they already use, and they only have sort of a superficial interest, as you say, in a lot of the other stuff that's out there.
right.
But you're right. I think they should definitely listen to us
It
more.
used to be they would you'd see the executives from these companies and at the trade shows, and
Yes.
they'd be going by different booths and they saying, oh, they can do that, can they? Oh, interesting.
Hmm.
They would get a sort of a knowledge of other products through that way. And nowadays, I think they have what do they call them? Competitive product departments where they do their own, I don't know, breakdowns or espionage. I'm picturing like
Right.
when they take down parts of a product and look at their labs. I'm sure they're doing that. Uh, but still, I don't think they can do it as well as we can. So yeah, so I would, but I don't know. They don't listen to me anyway. I don't know. Have you ever written a review and pointed out the issues, and then by the next revision, they've said, "Thank you, Anthony."
I have written reviews. Ironically, I think the company that has listened to me the most is the company where if I have a slight bias, I like to
Yeah,
believe that I don't write with any bias, but if I, you can imply that I did because I use it, and that would be
yeah,
Vectorworks. I have been most critical of them at times about many things, and they have listened to me. I don't think it's because I'm a user. I think it's because of my position in Architosh
uh-huh.
as an editor, and I think so. I do think that
You
companies
have,
do
you have a
listen.
big megaphone, right? They have to listen
I have
to.
a big megaphone, exactly,
Yeah,
but also, yeah, I think I I used to preach for years. Start working with all of the different interactive renderers, as many as you can. Get integrated with Lumion, get integrated with Enscape, get integrated with all these things, because they had their own rendering engine, Renderworks, and it was based on Cinema 4D and stuff like that.
uh,
But that was one area where I thought they took those, as I list them, cons in a review, pros and cons, and seemed to really embrace that and do that thing. Now they may have been already thinking that they needed to do that, and it just lined up with what I was saying, and it's just a
uh,
coincidence, but I'll never know exactly. But I do think that sometimes they do listen to us.
yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You're probably better at expressing your criticism than I was. I told this story the other day. Uh, so you favor Vectorworks. The old days, I was at Cadence Magazine, and we were a sort of a one-trick pony. We were covering AutoCAD, Autodesk products. Uh,
Hmm.
that's all we would do until the publisher decided that we'll get too many eggs in that basket. We're going to get more eggs, we get more baskets, I should say. I don't,
Yeah.
whatever. Uh, and they decided, oh, we're going to cover the emerging company was SolidWorks. So me, an intrepid journalist, we would let's do a comparison between uh, a mechanical desktop. That day was the MCAD program of Autodesk and SolidWorks and another company, Trispectives. And so I did it the best way I thought possible, with an eye on the audience. The audience was uh, imbued already, right? They were
Right.
going, yeah. So I said, oh, if you're user of Autodesk software, you're going to like Mechanical Desktop. It's
Hmm.
built on it. Yeah, you'll be comfortable with it. It's pretty mature and robust, where the other companies, startups, again, I was wrong because
Hmm.
SolidWorks was a better program and killed Mechanical Desktop, right?
Hmm.
another example of me like not knowing what I'm talking about, or predicting
Mhm.
the future, I should say, right? So where was I going? Everybody hated me after that. Autodesk hated me for covering anything, any company at all that was competing with them, right? And our
Okay.
advertising was all Autodesk, right? Percent of our advertising revenue was from Autodesk. Hated the fact that I was covering another product, even if I gave them the better review, right?
Mhm.
SolidWorks hated us because who is this idiot that doesn't know anything about SolidWorks saying we're not a good company? We're like, we're Windows, we're all Windows, right? We're modern, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And another company that faded out completely, so we're not even mentioning them, was Trispectives. Right? But yeah, so where was I going with this? That the yeah, advertising, it's tough to write for advertising based media, right? And, yeah,
Yes, yes,
yeah,
because you can get there's a certain feeling of being beholden to your advertisers.
yeah,
But I think maybe this is the difference between the AEC space and the mechanical space a little bit, but
yeah.
I feel like my advertisers, for the most part, have accepted,
The way you write and
the
like,
criticisms.
uh,
Yeah, to, I think first of all, like at Architosh, we don't do direct comparisons in our reviews.
mm,
If we do like a product in depth or a news story, we might, or a special feature, we might do some direct comparisons. But for the most part, our like the way I do write reviews from the very beginning was like, I'm just going to stick to this product and write about it. I might mention the competition in broad terms,
mm,
that the competition can't do X or Y or Z, but I try to just stick to the company.
right.
Yeah. I
Is
think
it
that's
because
worked.
yeah, yeah, so you won't get into trouble like I did.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't realize you were getting in all that trouble.
Oh man, I got into so much trouble. Also, you know who else? Everybody did. Everybody that chose to write about it was David Cohn. I don't mind say,
Yeah,
telling about him because he talked about it on our show. He said he lost his job because he was critical of AutoCAD. I think it was release 13, which was a mind-numbing.
that was a horrible release, right? Yeah.
Yeah, horrible. And he said that, and later on, Autodesk admitted it was a horrible release, but he lost his job because it's criticizing. He's free and open. He says openly says that now.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. We used to call it the
Yeah.
Autodesk mafia, the way they would
Right.
jump on.
That kind of thing reminds me of, not to get into politics, but our current administration and its current leader, who
Yeah.
will, if you ask a certain tough question, he will simply say, "You're a horrible journalist," or he'll say, "You're a horrible person." And I think, to be honest, it's that illustration is so vivid and so horrendous looking.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that in other press domains like our industry, that the software companies can see that you're not a bad person or a bad journalist because you're asking a tough question.
Right, right.
You're doing your job. That's what you're doing.
All right, so your companies have been well behaved and they haven't come down hard on you. You haven't had to look in your rearview mirror for being
No,
followed.
I've not had to look in my rearview mirror. No.
What about from Apple? Have you ever had Apple folks come down on you for
Well,
or
that's a great question. So, because Architosh, as the name suggests, was about Apple in the very beginning, right?
sure.
Architosh, Macintosh, right? It was about Mac architects for the most part. But in 2008, we changed the mission statement to and focus to include everyone.
Yeah,
A lot of people like you and our colleague friends like Martin Day and others have suggested to me, Latch Me, for example, suggested, no, you should focus on the whole industry. It'd be better for Architosh's future. And so I actually heeded people's advice and did that. And part of the reason why I did that is because Apple actually was helpful to Architosh for a few years in the first decade with some advertising and stuff and some
right,
support, and but then they kind of walked away from the professional markets and they weren't so helpful anymore. And I'm like, why? It'd be better for me to just broaden up, and it turned out to be the case. It was a good wisdom to do that. So when I did that, I thought maybe I'm going to get blowback from Apple by not just focusing on the Mac. and I didn't. I think Apple's a very well-behaved company. They've always been supportive of them. I was actually on the phone with them earlier this morning for another
Sure.
thing. So, no, I think my relationship with Apple has been good for a long, long time.
Uh, did you read the book about Jobs by Walter Isaacson?
I did. I did read it. It changed my opinion of him to some degree. Um,
In what way?
you were able to see all his faults in a way that you couldn't really see in any other format. I think, a lot of people who had really bad working experiences with him, that kind of came out in the book. Um,
Uh,
I never met him personally or worked with him, so I can't say that. But I have met lots of wonderful people who work at Apple knew him well and worked with him.
uh,
So for me, I thought the book was great. It was another great Isaacson bio, and it was
did you meet him, Anthony?
no, no. Did
Okay.
you?
I met the Woz. I had to, I met Woz, sat next to him at dinner. Well, it was a press event, so it didn't have him one-on-one,
Yeah.
but yeah, I met the Woz. So that's all I can claim.
I would like to meet Woz. I have exchanged emails with Woz in the very beginning of Architosh a long, long time ago.
Okay.
I don't even think I have those emails anymore because this was
Yeah.
long before Yahoo and Gmail.
Uh,
But no, I haven't met either of them.
yeah.
Um,
Don't you wish you had? Like, I feel like we have opportunity gone. Like, I feel that way about like John Walker of Autodesk. Like, oh no, I never get to meet him. He passed away. And I
yeah.
thought, I wish I could meet the person responsible for for
Well,
essentially.
yeah, I had the chance to actually walk up to Jobs and meet him. He was probably about 20 feet from me at Macworld.
Oh, I got a
Probably about,
sighting, a live
yeah.
sighting. Okay.
Yeah, just he was hanging out in the booth area, the
Uh,
Apple booth after his keynote. I didn't, and so the reason why was I wasn't sure how he'd react to me, and it coincidentally timed when I was trying to get a registered mark for Architosh, and I
uh,
was going through the patent office and so forth, and they rejected me. The U.S. Patent Office rejected getting a registered arc for Architosh on the grounds that they believed that trademark Architosh would be something that Apple might want, or it would be confusing, or be like people in the market would think it was some kind of product from Apple. So
yeah.
they denied me, and so I was a little worried. I wasn't sure if Jobs thought the same thing. So I didn't really want to get a bad reaction from him.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
but later on, I had Apple people tell me some very nice things that he was aware of Architosh and what was happening on the platform and on the website, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even Luxology, for example, when they came out with what was it, Mono or whatever, I forget that was such a good 3D model. I think it's still out there. I did a feature for that tool, and they sent it to Jobs to read, and they replied back that he read it, he loved it. That was a fantastic tool. It was all native on the Mac,
Uh,
still is, I believe, and so yeah, so I've had a lot of good feedback from other people that lead me to believe that I probably should have went up to Jobs and just and introduced myself. I didn't need to worry.
I had
Um,
a feeling that wherever he is, that he's probably thinking, I wish I had met Anthony.
well, I do wish I had met him. That'd be nice. I don't know.
Yeah.
He worked at was it Atari? He didn't do a lot of things before Apple.
Yeah.
He was so young when he started it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he
In
wasn't.
in that book, he talks about those days. He was I didn't know I didn't know a lot of things about him before, but boy, I feel like I know him as a person after Isaacson did a study on him, followed him around for years and years, I think, and talked to everybody he knew. His he talked about how he had was he the one with bare feet and smelled bad and
Yes, yes, he used to go bare feet in the office, and
yeah. Oh, okay. So I'm a big fan of his now, Isaacson, and actually Jobs to some extent. You should read. Have you read Musk yet? His other book?
I want to because
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Isaacson too. He's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
Isn't he good? He also wrote a book on Einstein. I'll get to them all eventually. But
Hmm.
yeah, Musk thing. Okay, I don't know your feelings on Musk. I feel like I do after what you said about our president, but he's he's also like I felt like I got to know a different side of him altogether. Not, I'm not saying I like him. I do
Mhm.
like his engineering mind and his products, but the person is just horrendous. And but I got to feel like I got to get to know. Sorry, not saying it right.
Yeah,
I got to know him better after that book. I
yeah,
understood. You know, they always say, understand your enemy. Right?
right.
I feel like I have that. So
Yeah.
I definitely recommend it. Even if you despise him, read the book.
Oh, yeah. I don't despise him at all. I actually really admire Elon a great deal. He's done some questionable things, but I'm actually still very much a fan of Elon.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, no, I'm a fan of Elon. I think he's an Edison. He's a real groundbreaker. So yeah, I'm a big fan of him.
You
And
probably
his
have you seen his all glass? He's supposed to have built an all glass house. After saying he would never have a house ever in his life, he's built an all glass structure. Have you seen
yeah, I know. People say a lot of things when they don't have all that money, and then when they have all that money. You have
Oh
to
man.
understand when people have a lot of money, they need to do something with it, and it's actually
Yeah.
good because it puts people to work. So I don't my I'm in the industry, the high end net worth industry in my practice, and we do single family
Right.
estates and stuff like that. And I actually on my projects when I walk around, I see so many people employed doing things and using their craftsmanship that they've acquired over the years. And so I don't mind all the billionaire homes. I know they don't need them and they don't, it's a lot of it is just ego and look at me, whatever, but it does keep people working and get money out of wherever it's stored into the economy.
Yeah.
And I love that it actually keeps the craftsmanship, the ability to make really special things in this country still here in this country so that we can make special things. Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you I have a job story. I'll tell you as quick
Okay.
as I can. Even though I never met him, his influence is pervasive and his stories are awesome. This one's not a great story, but it's all I got. So I'm in a limo ride. I'm being taken to on a press junket, for lack of a better word, to a DreamWorks studio. And
Mhm.
on there is not my usual crowd at all,
Mhm.
because
Right.
but we're there to look at Lenovo's I think Lenovo workstations. No, HP workstations, sorry, HP workstations. And the crowd is a movie crowd, and it's an Apple crowd, right? And it's
Mhm.
not, I don't know anybody. But across the limousine from me, it's one of these stretch limos, is a guy telling his job story, which to this day gave me my first impression of Steve Jobs, right? He says, oh, so here's him telling the story, and I'm paraphrasing. Don't know who the gentleman is. Younger journalist, Asian descent. And he said, I had iPhone.com, right?
Yeah.
He had the domain, right?
Yeah.
And he was like very proud of that. He was going to do things with it. Well, I don't know what, maybe develop it because iPhone was just starting to come out at that time. He had iPhone.com. And he said Steve Jobs came up to him at one of these meetings. He was at this luncheon meet or session or something, some session that something Jobs was throwing press event, and he was there. And Jobs actually came up to him. Jobs comes up right up to him. He's like,
Mhm.
helping himself to the shrimp buffet or whatever. Right? Jobs comes up to him and says, "Hey, are you the guy with iPhone.com?" And he goes, "Yeah." And and Jobs goes, "Can I have it?" Right? So he gave it to him, just gave it to him. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what an idiot. I
Yeah.
mean, he gave it to him because he loved to be invited to these events and he loved the fact that Jobs knew him, right? And
Yeah.
Jobs could have given him $1 million easy, right? Out of his
Right.
practically out of his pocket, right? And he just was so enamored of being in his presence that he just
Right.
lost it.
Yeah.
Gave up iPhone.com.
Yeah. That's well, that's kind of that was like a little bit of my fear and just walking at the jobs and
uh,
saying, "Hey, I'm the Architosh guy." See, the other thing about the trademark and issue
uh,
was that in the first year I started Architosh, a company that was a software company did approach me and say, you're trespassing on my trademark." And so they had software called Architosh. And it was for, I think, landscape design or something like that. And I basically wrote back saying, I'm not a software company. I'm a publication.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we're not in the
no,
same industry. And
there's no
your
market
market,
confusion. There's no
yeah,
market.
there's no market confusion. And you don't have a registered mark. So I think I'm fine. And I left it at that.
Yeah,
He didn't come after me, he didn't try to do anything.
yeah,
So, but it always dawned on me that that person could come around and say, "Hey, we're growing. You have Architosh.com. That's the name of our software." And so I was a little leery in the early years of just Architosh seemed like a really great name. I didn't want to lose it. I didn't think Apple would ever take it from me personally. That's not why I didn't go up to jobs.
right.
Exactly. But I always had that in the back of my mind that what would he say to me about the name?
Yeah, yeah. So like I said, wonderful to talk to you again. We don't get to see each other anymore. I think the last time I remember we were in the same place. Was it Japan? Was it right in
No,
Tokyo?
no, we were probably in no, probably some Autodesk event, Autodesk University.
Yeah, probably. Okay.
Yeah, I know you didn't go. You didn't go last year to Tennessee, right? You didn't go to
No,
Nashville.
no, I
No.
didn't go to Nashville. I think I missed the last SolidWorks thing too. My wife got injured. I had to take care of her. Yeah, but
Okay.
I don't think, what is your feeling on this? Do you think the CAD companies, I'm finding that maybe it's just personally they don't want me to attend, but I'm thinking they're pretty much going with a new way of doing business with media. I don't think I find this other people too, like aren't invited to their events anymore. Like, so,
Well, I think there's been a paring back.
yeah,
Some of the companies have been paring back. So they used to invite maybe 13 people, now they're inviting 9 or 10 or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
So some people are getting dropped. There's definitely less media invited at Autodesk University, I believe,
uh,
from my experience in the past. I'm just thankful that I'm still getting invited.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I don't know what it is. I think they are doing things differently. I think it's just, the inflationary years post the pandemic, I have been challenging for the country and for a lot of companies. So I think it's just kind of a tightening the belt. The big Japan trip that we were on in what, 2014, did you go to the 2017 one?
no,
That was the graphics.
was never
Did,
invited back.
oh, you didn't go to 20. Okay, that was in Kyoto.
I went once, yeah, and I
You
did
went
one,
one.
one in
Yeah, you
Tokyo.
went one.
Mhm. Right.
Kyoto. They had a great event
I
in
think they
Kyoto.
realized I didn't know what I was talking about, architecture.
You're a mechanical guy.
Yeah.
That's why I don't write about mechanical design anymore.
Okay.
We stopped that a while back. Companies still reach out to me with press releases and I say, I'm sorry, we're just AEC now.
Right.
So I should probably make that more abundant
But
and be clear.
but really, Anthony, how long before I think they're realizing, I think the world might be realizing we're not the influencers now, right? We're not the ones with TikTok accounts and
Here's my answer to that. I think I'll counter that because I agree on some level. You can go to YouTube and you can find people with zillions of followers and they could be talking about a lot of the same stuff we're talking about.
yeah,
The
yeah,
difference is that we're respected voices. They're not. Difference is we have tacit knowledge because we're older and have years of experience. They don't really have experience, so therefore they have no tacit knowledge.
yeah,
They have no know-how because that's what tacit knowledge really is. That's what I
yeah,
mean. And for me, Architosh is critically about tacit knowledge, getting my tacit knowledge as a practitioner, as an architect, doing a variety of things over my career at different scales, getting that into what I write about on some level. So there's a distinguishing factor about the things that I'm writing about that, say, Martin Day, who's brilliant at what he does, can't exactly say because he is just an AEC industry journalist and not a practitioner.
right, right.
Um, so that's how that's my pitch for why they should
Yeah.
keep inviting me.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm buying it. Really, honestly, I believe
Yeah, I
that.
think
Of
it's
course
good to
I
buy.
would, right? I consider myself an old pro. I just get
Right.
worried. But
Absolutely.
and I find myself doing it too. Like if I want information, am I going to read a tutorial by an expert, or am I going to find the answer on how I want to do this on YouTube? Like if I have
Yes.
trouble with a SketchUp command, right? I'm going to say,
Right.
oh, I'll get it on YouTube, and it only takes me a minute, right?
It does. It only takes you a minute,
Yeah,
and there's a zillion people offering that help,
yeah.
but no one dominates that market of
No one
helping.
dominates.
No,
Exactly. Right.
it's a blue ocean for domination. It's a blue ocean there. The only
Exactly.
one who's really benefiting is YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, you're not kidding. That could be a whole subject of discussion, the YouTube
Right.
economy, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. I better let you go. Anthony,
Okay.
it's been wonderful. Thanks so much
Yeah,
for
thank you.
talking.
Likewise. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for the invite. Great
All right.
conversation.
Very good.
All
All
right.
right.
Take care.
Talk to you
Bye-bye.
later. Bye-bye.
This concludes this episode of the History of CAD podcast. Please join me in our next episode as we add to the rich history of design software. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or know someone who has stories to share, please let me know via email at rupinder@edgetechnica.com. Companies can sponsor an episode of the History of CAD. Get the details on our website, edgetechnica.com/sponsorship.